The lucky supermarkets in San Francisco are a big deal because if grocery stores, supermarkets are closing down in the city, it just means one thing: the population decline is crazy. Usually these stores, their profit margins aren't really that good, and of course combined with the insane shoplifting culture of San Francisco, I'm not even sure if I should say culture. It's like this weird thing happening in San Francisco where like shoplifting is much higher than anywhere else in the country. But with that, supermarkets have a very low profit margin. So that means they gotta sell large amounts of items to make money. It's very simple. If you look at this, the Lucky supermarket is closing down in many parts of the Bay Area. In fact, 3 Bay Area Lucky supermarkets just closed in a single day. And this is a big deal, right? This is a grocery chain that's everywhere in the San Francisco Bay Area. And many of these places are taking massive beatings. So the reason why is underperformance of store locations. And it's beneficial for the overall company to just shut down 3 stores, but 3 stores in one day is a very extreme amount. Now, if you go to the Bay Area and type in the Lucky supermarkets, these things are actually pretty popular, right? These aren't like your average Joe everyday grocery stores. I mean, the ratings are honestly pretty decent. It's fresh foods, fresh veggies, all that kind of stuff. And many of these supermarkets, they do thrive, right? Prices are pretty good, reviews are pretty good. They usually open pretty early. So overall, if you look at this, they're everywhere in the Bay Area. They're in like the Fremont area. They're even in Oakland. And they're even in like the Berkeley area as well. So Lucky is a pretty big impact in San Francisco, but even they are closing down a bunch of stores. And it's not great when a supermarket of this caliber is closing down 3 stores in one day. That's not normal at all, right? And we're even seeing stuff like McDonald's closing down, which is insane because usually McDonald's thrives in places where there's bad economy and in places where a lot of luxury restaurants are closing down. McDonald's tends to thrive, but even McDonald's is taking a beating. And I'll get to it, but there's a McDonald's that closed down in the Bay Area, which is insane. So restaurant owners are also pretty mad about the situation. Grocery stores and also small mom and pop stores are all closing down in massive waves. Many of it is coming from the insane amount of shoplifting. And many of these business owners, when they call the cops about shoplifting incidences, they don't really get the help they need, right? You can have everything on film, but no one's going to get prosecuted. In fact, shoplifting at this point is like almost feels decriminalized in the Bay Area. That's what many business owners are saying. And if you look around the web and you look at what Starbucks is happening, they're closing down a bunch of stores as well. In fact, they closed 7 Starbucks stores in the Bay Area. Whole Foods has entirely left, and even Amazon Go is pretty much leaving the area as well. There seems to be a lot of these stores taking big beatings. And if you look at, for example, Starbucks closing 7 stores in the Bay Area, and there will be even more closures as time goes on. And if you look at the rest of the California region, like Los Angeles, San Diego, you're seeing the same thing. A lot of people, a lot of office workers are leaving, which is causing many of the other stores and auxiliary stores like these to pretty much go down with them. If you look at restaurant owners in Valencia Street and the Mission, they're saying that they're stuck in a doom loop. San Francisco's crime, drug rate, and abuse and low tourism are destroying businesses, with some restaurants seeing their sales down 50% in some areas. And there's even talks of business owners really regretting signing the lease in San Francisco because they could have signed it anywhere else right now and make a lot of money, right? They could have signed it in Vegas, Austin, Denver, the Midwest. If you're a decent restaurant and you sign in like downtown Miami, you're going to be getting like some pretty good business. But if you look at Valencia Street, for example, look at the Mission, things are not great at all, right? The Mission is just filled with a lot of really cool stores, restaurants, and cafes. This is where all the office workers used to go after work. But guess what happened to all the office workers? Well, 150,000 of them no longer commute to the Bay Area, which is causing a massive decline in a lot of these businesses. And of course, a lot of people just don't want to go out at night anymore. It's actually pretty dangerous to go out at night. People are actually pretty freaked out about it. This is why bars and clubs are experiencing some of the biggest downturns in terms of just revenue and customers. A skew of restaurants this week says crime, drugs, and also low tourism is destroying their businesses. Valencia Street used to be a place where everyone wanted to get a restaurant space, right? You'll never find a single empty restaurant in Valencia Street because people want that spot so bad. But now you could actually find several empty restaurants and retail stores on Valencia Street. You could grab it if you want to. And many of these restaurants are just taking beatings after beatings. And in fact, many of these restaurants are actually sending emails and pretty much letters to the city council like, hey man, you gotta change things up. You can't just have the city be a massive open air drug market. Even Salesforce is pretty mad about this whole situation. But here's the thing about San Francisco, and it's pretty frustrating. This is why many business owners are just simply closing down without saying the word. Like, the city just can't really do much, right? And they don't really like big changes either. So you got a situation where nothing's really changing, but there's going to be a few band-aids being put on the situation, but that's not going to help. So San Francisco, already, it's been 2 years with massive amounts of companies leaving and employees leaving, and the city still isn't willing to do any sort of massive, drastic changes. In fact, the city's in such a bad position that they're even cutting down $30 million from law enforcement, $30 million from the health department. They're going to be doing a total of $200 million of city budget cuts just to not go into a budget deficit. And that's bad, right? We all know that San Francisco probably doesn't need any budget cuts. They probably need like a budget increase, in fact, to deal with all this craziness. So think about it, right? You're a restaurant owner, your sales are down 50%, and now the city is like cutting all sorts of basic services and even law enforcement. And you know that crime is going to skyrocket through the roof. So this is why many people in San Francisco, these businesses, don't want to expand here, right? They might have a restaurant or a grocery store or a startup here, but they're not going to expand in San Francisco. They're going to expand somewhere else. And that's what's happening here. If you look into places like, McDonald's, like, how does the McDonald's close in your city? I don't even think that's possible, right? McDonald's generally does really well, even in bad economic times. Right now, you got extremely high interest rates. Unemployment's actually ticking up. But the McDonald's closes down in San Francisco. That's terrible. So what the McDonald's says is the location is more like in the downtown region. So they mostly service a lot of tourists and also office workers. But with so many tourists and office workers just simply leaving, you're seeing McDonald's is like, oh, snap. We don't really have anyone here. I guess we're closing down. And after 30 years, pretty much, McDonald's, this location has probably seen all sorts of crazy stuff. 2 major stock bubble pops, like the 01 dot-com bubble and also the 08. They've seen depressions and recessions. And McDonald's 2023, this is the final straw that broke the camel's back. They just can't take it anymore. For the first time in San Francisco history, there's like no office workers here anymore. McDonald's is pretty much leaving as well. Scary stuff. And then combined with the fact that many of the San Francisco remaining companies like Cisco Systems are laying off hundreds and even thousands of workers, it doesn't really help in their scenario. So let's just see what happens here. I hope San Francisco recovers, but like I said before, it's already been 2 years. There are going to be some pretty insane drastic changes, which I'm not sure the city is ready for.